I need to fill Roger in the most. Okay, and I got an extra paper here for you.
We're going to call the
Call
meeting.
back here. No
I'm sorry.
decision.
Call the meeting back to order, and there was no decision made.
So here's the deal. We bid this bridge. This is the engineer's estimate. And he thought he was high at 168,600. And it happened to be Phillips County built a 50-foot bridge. Just bid, a few months ago, it was 148,000. So you'd think he would be safe on this. Here are our bids coming in. This contractor has this one, and Reese has this one, and then the Zach Dirt was extremely high. We're disappointed that as high as it was, so we decided we'd look at our options. We tabled it at the last meeting so we could discuss it again and see what we want to do. And so our options are, Gerald probably explains it right there. He visited with them. He could see why some of them are a little higher than normal. He has thought about lowering the bridge down 6 feet, and that way we'd have less material to work with, because we originally was going to be 20 feet high, and it would be lowered down 14 feet. So therefore you'd have less piling, one less abutment piling on each side, and then a lot less length on sheet piling. Plus we'd have a lot less dirt to be filling in. We may have a sway, and I did pick this up from Kale at the Soil Conservation Office. I think we could actually lower the road and the bridge. We got to get the material somewhere, and I know Tom said he would donate it, but we could actually lower that down. See, here's some of his figures as far as that goes. And there you wouldn't have too quick of a sway. You'd have a lot better vertical curve on it, and I think we'd like that a lot better. Part of the problem, see, the old road, even I'm guessing in the 50s, was over here and went through here, and then this river's creeping up into this. Another reason I'd rather stay with a bridge instead of a box.
Because that was one of the options that was discussed, is that in regards to the actual, instead of the bridge, you would look at the box bridge. But in order to pursue the box bridge, you would have to reject these bids and put out a new specs to solicit bids. Is that right?
Yes. It appears like contractors don't want to come out this far to work on a bridge.
So Dave, is the question, given this information from Gerald regarding changing the specs, that if that is going to be pursued, then the current bids would have to be rejected and then a new bid solicitation put out with these specs?
I think that he thinks we may be able to negotiate, if you agree that if we was able to negotiate a price with a low bidder, if we was to lower the bridge, just simply lower the bridge.
But it seems to me that you had 3 that had made bids. And so in all fairness, all 3 should be able to bid these specs, is my opinion.
Okay, and that's what he's afraid would happen. So.
And did you say we could negotiate with them?
We could negotiate maybe like changing the deck or something if we stayed with the same height and everything like that.
Okay. But I think you're right. We'd have to let them all look at it, right?
Well, if you're changing the specs of a project, that changes, everything, or not everything, but the majority of your original bid. So in fairness, I believe that it needs to be put back out there with these specific specs because they've been changed.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to, go with the bridge. Now, a question I would have for Gerald is, could you go ahead and do both? Could you do the bridge with the new specs and also do the box at the same time?
Yes, I think it could.
And then that way you would have everything there to review at the time of the opening of the bids so that this project could get going.
That's right. And you probably read that second page, you know. KDOT has a big bridge letting on the 17th. I was hoping we could have some answer, just contact them three to get an estimate again, you know, before the 16th when our next meeting is. And he says, no, you need to probably publicly advertise and everything like this again, so.
Are we getting any assistance from the federal government?
None,
No.
because there wasn't a bridge there before, so therefore there was nothing on the bridge program.
Isn't that the FSA or whatever?
See, we're already getting some funding from FSA, so therefore we can't get any through that. You know, that's where we get some of our transportation money, is based on the traffic on FAS roads. So, and there was no flood assistance because there wasn't hardly any other floods in the county. Floods in the area, it was just our county. You know, like if it would have been a wider area, you know, and it hit, you know, just this tri-state area. It wasn't, there was only three
All
other.
been in Kansas, it might have been enough to
Yeah.
do it, but it was
So
Nebraska.
it's all on our own here, so. And that's something else we're gonna have to look at. You know, we was real happy when we got that bridge grant, you know, it was the one south of Nambussy I'd mentioned, where we was, they had it estimated at $260,000. We was gonna have to pay 10% of that, you know, providing we take this other bridge out and get that $50,000 credit.
Yeah.
Well, here we got a bid of the low bidder here is 242, and he was estimating that 260, and there's way more piling in that one, and it's a 50-foot bridge, and this is only a 30. I almost expect the bids to come in closer to 300,000 on that one. So if we have to pick up everything after the 200,000, we'd be better off doing the 80-20 bridge program with the state. And it's generally 25%, and then we'd cost 75,000. So instead of 110,
How long do those culverts last?
the concrete car.
No, the culverts we had in there,
How long? We're guessing 45 years.
45 years. What does it cost to put 2 culverts back in?
It wouldn't be a whole lot, but our biggest concern, we don't think it's going to last because of the springy soil that's underneath. I think that, you know, we always had trouble with it, seepage and stuff like that, and working on that, so. And that's really still concerns me a little bit, even if we used to bid a concrete box, you know, they're longer and they got toe walls and everything like that, but the soil's so unstable, we had a hard time just even getting some of that dry enough to even get settled back into there, so. Springs are always running up there.
Well, there's a lot of people out there getting a little concerned as long as it's taken.
I agree, and that's what bothers me. I was
They
hoping,
can't get the crops to, I mean, it's a long ways around.
it is.
Seemed like we get culverts in there that lasted 45 years. I
Yeah,
know
see,
it's
they took out-
spring.
They took out a 60
How long
foot
did the bridge before that last?
Yeah, we don't know that, so,
And that would have pilings in it.
right. It looked like it was real low, and I think they just tried to create a dam with a 6-foot culvert, and therefore when everything started building up, away it went.
I know we're gonna have to rebid it, but I'm afraid we're looking at next year before we get a bridge in there.
Well, we had it set for, it had to be completed by June 1st, and I'd almost say we'd have to back that up a month if we're gonna rebid it. So.
So if you have it rebid, how long would that take to get the rebids?
We would probably do it at the end of February.
We put the bridge on,
The bid's back by the end of February,
you're saying?
our last meeting, whatever that be. So,
Don't take a lot of dirt. They're gonna take 6 foot off above anyway.
the 26th then.
6th.
So,
I think we have to rebid it, right?
Well, it's-
maybe I need to, I'll call Gerald just a little more from what we've discussed and from what you said and see what he thinks, and then we'll get a little more on time, and then I'll get back with you guys, so. We'll go ahead with this meeting, that's all right, so.
So he thinks we can get it down to, might get it down to 168 if we make it lower?
If we lowered everything, he's thinking it'd be probably 180, 190, it'd be under 200,000. Whether it's worth the delay, you know, the rebid and that cost and stuff like that. I mean, true, you're saving 40,000, but
Okay. JR now? JR?
I think we'll probably let Roger talk about that since it has to do with the organization and where it's headed. And I guess then we'll talk about what we're working on for solutions or trying to figure out what our options are.
We'll only join in whenever you want.
Okay.
We had quite a meeting yesterday. The Northwest Kansas Regional Recycling Organization is not going to be solvent after probably July at the longest. We're using our reserve funds to operate on the way we're operating. And I think the direction kind of yesterday that we took was that, yes, we're going to have to face the fact we're going to have to do something else. And we're going to start gradually, we need to start cleaning up over Colby. And they gradually start not accepting some things because we don't want to be sitting over there in July with a whole bunch of stuff in inventory. Without being able to pay regular firms to take care of it. I had originally thought that maybe a good plan would be to get a building and centralize it, and Willie and I worked pretty hard on finding a place to put it in Bird City, which would be a simple location, and relocate up to Highway 36, which Sunoco, our vendor right now, was willing to change his routes from I-70 up to 36. And we met with Betty Johnson here 2 weeks ago with Hanson. And yes, she thought we could get the money to build a building, about $300,000. And but the question was, is it sustainable? And we couldn't answer that question.
Yeah, we didn't think with the counties we'd have in, we can afford it. We'd have to raise so much that nobody would, none of the 3 counties would do it.
And there was 2 options. She recommended getting more counties back in, which hasn't worked in the past. And it's, you know, if I came up to you today and said, would you join us again? When do you think you'd have money appropriated to be able to join the organization? Probably be, what, a year after the budget. So we can't last long. And so it's been, in my, JR and Dave were both at the meeting. I think it's almost come to each county's going to have to be on their own and try to figure out their own system. Now, that being said, what we said about adding more money, Decatur County pays nothing but dues. Rollins County pays dues plus they hire a full-time employee and they haul all the product. So they've got a little more invested in it. But you guys have probably got about $52,000 invested in your recycling program. You have your dues. You've been paying about, what, $1,700 in freight or
Probably average.
yeah, on per month on dues or freight, and then I think it was $11,000 annually, and then the you give the $20,600 to each, some to Birds, some to St. Francis for operation, and I assume you're still giving like the $10 rebate per ton each year. So with that all figured in, that's about how much you guys are paying. That does not take into account the employee at the building, either here or in Bird City. So it's, we're not, I told them at the meeting the other night, I said, I'm not gonna ask Cheyenne County to put any more money into it.
Well, I was just gonna ask you, we just wrote a check for $17,000
Yeah,
to the Northwest Kansas. Do you want that money to go there?
yes, we need that, the dues, yes. Now, I will say that at the end of the operation, all our assets will, according to our bylaws, will be liquidated and split in thirds with who's ever members. And Decatur County did pay their dues too. They're kind of this evil stepchild on this operation, but they always have been, and that's the way it is, but I don't know any way to exclude them from everything. So that, and I think we got roughly about $500,000 in assets. We have a building, and we own our building would go for, and then we've got the big baler over there, and we've got tractor trailer with a flatbed trailer, and we've got a Chevy Duramax flatbed. We've got forklifts, a lot of other equipment, a portable dock, some things like that, glass crushers, aluminum blowers, things like that. Now, some of that stuff might be useful to one of the three counties, so maybe the cash would not come out, but I would think that would have to be figured out equitable on the cost. But that's, so by paying your dues this year, you're staying in, and you're gonna get, hopefully get a return back on that part. And I would think more than this year's dues. Now, that being said, Dave and JR came up with some thoughts on it of what we can do here. And that's, do you want to take over now?
Sure. Yeah, one of the issues we're going to have is we're going to have to operate independently ourselves and or Bird City. So there's going to be some equipment needs, be it balers, if we don't do something with Sunoco. Now, there is an option that Sunoco is putting out there where they would take the product, under certain circumstances. However, we need to compare cost to what it would do to do what these other places are doing, like Thomas County, and see if it's cost effective to do that way. If that's to be the case, then we're going to need to purchase some equipment probably prior to being liquidated there, but we should get that back, I would think, if that's the way we decide to go. Now, Sunoco, I think if we was to go with them, said they would supply the balers, right?
Yeah. Do you have two over there, Willie, from Sunoco?
We have two balers, yes.
Yeah, and then, of course, Rawlins County has one, and I think Decatur has one, but as far as Cheyenne County now, I'm just going to focus on us. We have three balers that we paid nothing for, as long as we give Sunoco our product. And I talked to Sunoco. He's willing to set up a route up here to pick up our paper products, our cardboard for sure, and then the chipboard, office paper, newspaper, and magazines. But it'd have to be baled. But we've got 4 balers of theirs sitting idle in Colby right now that we could get up here, so we could add balers if we needed to.
If we go with Sunoco.
Yeah, if you
they're
go with
available.
Sunoco.
If not, then we have to purchase equipment. And the point I'm getting at is the ones that do a single stream, which is not a popular thing with the original group at all. Basically, you have a sellable product in the cardboard. Everything else is I don't want to call it disposal, but it goes to Stutzman and Hutchison, and it's all mixed back together and basically just taken there, and then you pay them to take that. Now, we don't have the cost on Sunoco for sure. They're offering up to give a proposal, and also we don't have a cost on this other side. So we don't have the solution yet, but it's probably one of those two, either Sunoco or single streaming to Hutchison.
Now, I haven't talked with Sunoco. I was more worried about them if they'd even establish a route up here on 36. But as long as it's bailed, they should pay us for our carts. Now, Centennial pays, right now it's $60 a ton. It fluctuates. It depends. Like right now they're paying $60 a ton and they'll pick it up for free. We are getting about $48 a ton, but Sunoco takes off for the balers that they let us use.
The main thing is, I think we will be able to operate after we get over the hump of however we're going to do this on equal or less money, and we'll still be recycling. It's just getting to what is the best answer.
Yeah.
I'm convinced you'll save money.
Yeah.
I am too, but I just didn't want to.
Well, one of the things too,
Yeah,
though,
that's all we can say, but I don't know how you can help but save money.
but one of the things too is we won't be recycling.
What?
We won't be able to take in some of the recycling. Well,
Right.
that'll go straight to the landfill, and that's the downside is that we're not going to be able to say take glass and
Well,
I
and
don't
that's
know,
my
clothing.
question. I mean, with the way that you're talking in regards to the
Yeah.
paper goods, for lack of a better term, it seems like that's the only thing that you would be able to take at the recycle. And then in regards to the other items like glass, and et cetera, the decision would have to be made as if that's going to be taken to Hutch and we pay them to take it, or can our landfill absorb that, right?
That's exactly right.
And the
Yes. And there's some products that are less detrimental. So when you take plastic and that kind of stuff down there that takes up a lot of space in the landfill, you're saving a lot of space. Now, if you was to crush glass locally and take it to the landfill, the actual effect on the landfill's life is negligible. So there may be different ways to figure out where we're not hauling tonnage down there that doesn't have a negative effect out here. But that's what we're trying to figure out now.
Right, because I know that Dave's done a lot of work in regards to the longevity of the landfill, and, you know, sitting pretty good at this point, but if all of a sudden you're going to have that influx, how is that going to affect the
And that's
plan
where
that
we have to
Dave's put
find
in
the
place?
balance. That's the balance
Yeah.
we're looking for. We would only take, it's worth going to Stutzman with things that take up a lot of space that don't condense well, I guess, and that's what Dave and I have talked about as well. There may be a situation where certain things, it makes sense to go here rather than paying it to go there. But at some point, you start affecting this life we've been preserving by recycling, and you start affecting it negatively, you're kind of going backwards as to what this whole thing was set up for in the first place. So that's the balance we have.
And that's not to mention that how upset the people are going to be when they can't recycle
Right.
certain things.
I hate to take away anything. And if you could figure out, can you use the crushed glass for cover?
Yes.
You already take the shredded paper, right?
We use, as a rule, we try to use the shredded paper in the hydro seeder for cover.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, we only did 6.5 tons of plastic last year. That's not very much. If the only thing he was hauling to the single stream was plastic, that'd be one load a year. It wouldn't even be a load. There's, I can tell you, can haul about 8 tons on a compaction trailer. We're not exactly sure on that. Did you get any?
On the compaction trailer, I don't know, it would be 11 loads to
Yeah.
take 90 tons to Stutzman in a year. 90 tons is what we have left over after the cardboard, which is the one that's marketable to Centennial out of Colorado. I think it's important too, by what you was pointing out, Leslie, is that we're not intending to change anything about collection. It's about what we do with it once we're there. Now, if we find that something just cannot be dealt with, it's just way too expensive, then we would consider that. But we're not looking at reinventing the collection point. It's everything from there is what we're trying to figure out.
Okay.
And even if we have to, I don't like this idea of sending the paper and the chipboard and all the other, besides just solely doing cardboard, which is what Centennial is offering. I don't like that idea of sending paper to the single stream. It's just not, doesn't bear in with what
Yeah, with
our mantra has been over at Cold. But I'll tell you right now, we're gonna have to do something. It's gonna have to happen before July. And probably before then.
yeah. Well, another thing too is say for instance, the clothing.
Yes,
We're all filled up over there, and we want to just get a full load that we can get rid of, but we're going to have to stop taking it pretty soon. So that would be one item that we would not pick up anymore.
yeah, that's a bad one. Because the thrift store down here, I don't know how many loads they haul a week to us. Believe it or not, you'd think they would be keeping it out of the street, but it's actually feeds it. And stuff. But the clothing is one thing, yeah.
On the upside, if we was to contract this, that we don't have the bigger process is the elimination of the assets and how it works now. There are multiple ways to deal with it, either by contract hauling, single streaming, however we do that can happen, I don't want to say relatively quick. We want to do the right thing and make sure we research it. But like Centennial, they pick up a full semi-load. There may be a storage issue with having to have that much at a time, or maybe we work with Rawlins County. Those are the things that we have to figure out. But we have solutions that I think could be dealt with in a reasonable amount of time. We're not looking at operating until July at all. In fact, we hope to come up with that solution to ease up the liquidation of that sooner rather than later.
If it's a smooth transition, they'll blow me over.
Exactly.
I just think.
But that's why we want to give them room.
Yeah.
We want to come up with what we do for Cheyenne County much sooner rather than later. So we're not,
It sounds like you're looking at maybe it might be cheaper down the road.
Oh,
yes.
you guys definitely. Now, I'm not saying that for Rawlins or Decatur County, because they haven't been paying much. They have not near the participation of their county commissioners toward this that you guys have been across this table for the last 20 years.
When you take into account the city pays for the other, basically half of the cost of an employee, just with basic numbers, not contractable numbers, but to have a contract hauled, it looks to me like we'll be 20,000 less operationally by one single change by just doing it in that manner. Now Colby, they went ahead and bought a compaction vehicle of their own, and they haul their own. You know, those are the kind of things we need to decide. Do we want to have more equipment, or do we want to contract it out? Again, until we do a cost analysis and also decide whether we're going to work with Rawlins County, because then that adds bulk. You know, maybe you do want equipment at that point, or maybe it's easier to contract again. Just a matter of figuring out what our numbers are.
Now, Rawlins County, their building is smaller than ours, so they don't have a lot of storage. And we've got a pretty good working relationship with them and with commissioners and stuff. Even though they have 2 new commissioners, I've been reassured. The one sits on our board, Ellen Poker, but they tend to, they would be easy to work with. I have to discount Decatur County because they just have never been easy to work with. But it shows too what they invested in. We do, actually this year, Rawlins County outdid Cheyenne County by about 10 tons. I think they did 196 and we did 187 tons. And Decatur County did 88. So.
So at this point, the recycling committee has to get together to make what the decision on this. Is this
We
correct?
decided we're gonna have a face-to-face meeting in a month, and we're gonna determine a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I think it was made pretty clear yesterday, though, that this is where we're heading.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at, let's say, like for instance, our building has got to go up for sale, but we can't sell it full of recyclables. So at some point, we gotta quit taking inventory in before the July. Because, at that point, we're out of money.
But you're talking Colby.
Pardon?
The building in Colby?
Yes.
Right. And the equipment, like I said, we're gonna have, we have the ramp, the trucks, the trailers, all of that sort of thing.
So basically what you're saying is at this next meeting that you're going to have, you're going to actually be talking about dissolving the Northwest Kansas recycling. And each county going individually to take care of their own recycling.
That's
I think
right.
that's,
And so
I
in
think
doing so,
officially, yes, but I
and so
think,
in doing so, then you sell off all of the assets, divide that in thirds, and then you're on your own in Cheyenne County for your own recycling program. Okay.
So what did Thomas County end up doing?
they went out on their own and they're doing just what we're looking to do.
So they take they're the ones that bought their own equipment. They actually have a trash truck that hauls 8 tons. They collect everything just the way we do. It's all separate. And then they put it all together in a compaction truck, basically a trash truck, and they haul it to Stutzman once a month. So they own their own equipment. Centennial out of Colorado picks up their cardboard one semi-load at a time for $60 per ton. So, and they take, they do take their shredded paper to their local landfill, but again, they're using that for cover.
Roger,
So-
you might mention what the local perspective, that folks are separating all of their their recycling, they're taking it in to the center, and it is all separated, and then these counties take all of that recycling and bring it all together, dump it together, and haul it down, so.
That's when you close the door and recycle for a couple of hours.
And strangely, if you go down to where they actually do this, I've been to the plant where they do it. I don't know, have you been to that before, Stutzman, have you?
No, I have
Okay.
not.
Well, it's a strange operation. I mean, it basically is loaders with what looks like trash, and they dump it into a bin, and this thing has more moving parts, and I don't know how many acres it takes up, but it takes all the stuff that these places had separate, mixes it up, and then they put it in the machine, and it re-separates it. That's what this thing does. It's so hard to believe this makes sense. There is a fair amount of it that it goes to waste. But this place has been in operation, and it just looks like people are just hauling landfill trash into there by the time they're messing with it. It's a strange operation. They have huge warehouses full of bales of things that are, after it's re-separated, then they bale it. So,
But I might point out that is part of the problem with commodity prices, is MRFs, like Stutzman, have been doing this. They started sending all these contaminated bales to China. China said, we're not going to take your trash. They sent it back. The kind of recycling that we were doing was clean. Everything was sorted out. But it became the norm for municipalities to do single collection. Have one tub and you throw all your recyclables in there, plus, the dirty diapers and all that stuff.
but we would never collect that way, because then eventually
No.
they're not going to take it. I mean, we can't deal with it in that manner. You have to take it that way to make sure you're sending it, otherwise they're going to reject it. But that's what it looks like when you're down there. It just literally looks like landfill trash going into that bin.
What they do with that stuff that China rejected, dump it in the ocean on the way home.
Probably.
Barges just don't.
No, Canada had to buy it all back. Took a bunch back.
And it's all economics. I mean, it's obviously far more expensive and more labor intensive to do it right than it is to do it the way everybody's doing it. I don't know how else to say it. It's dirty recycling.
I would really like to keep, and I'm in good contact with Sunoco, with Will Lefevre down there, and he thinks we're on the right track. I talked to him the day before yesterday. He said, I think this is, because I've been trying to talk to him, say, what can we do? What can we do? Well, you need to bale your plastic. And I said, God dang, we was going to do that with our building, our centralized building. Well, that's not going to work. So, but, if you mix it up and still get rid of, Sunoco would take our chipboard and our paper if it's baled, which Centennial will not. And then the other thing is that Sunoco we can have the balers for free. If we do with Centennial, we would have to probably buy 1, 2, 3 balers, about $15,000 each. So I'd like to, I wish I could make it work with Sunoco, because they would pick up more product here that would be less that we'd have to haul to Hutchison. And
You're basically comparing the transportation cost to the labor cost of baling.
yes,
And we'll know that. We'll
yes,
come up with
and
those
I'm not
numbers once
saying,
he talks to Sunoco more.
yeah, and yes, I think there'd be more labor costs, which JR is concerned about that up here as far as having to bale the paper and the other products. Now, Lynette over at Colby, she didn't seem to think that we could bale magazines and paper and stuff with our balers that we have. I'd like to try it and see if it does work.
Doesn't it have something to do with the pressure on them that,
Yeah. But if we have to haul it, we have to haul it.
yeah.
At least the paper product won't be in our landfill. See, Sunoco has a paper plant, and that's why they like to get our cardboard, chipboard. Now, chipboard we can bale, and we get a lot of chipboard. It's like your cereal boxes and stuff.
Oh,
And that could be baled, and I don't think that would be an extra big burden. But the paper might be.
In the next meeting or two, we'll have some solid numbers, I think, to decide labor to transportation and those things.
One of the questions that came up yesterday, the reason I couldn't get a motion to sign a contract on the building over there was the fact, does that money go into operating funds to keep us afloat for, I don't know, if we sell for $200,000, it might keep us afloat for another year? Or does that go into our inventory if things need to be dispersed?
Do we have an attorney? What does it works out of over there?
What's that?
Do we have an attorney that works with us that can tell us that?
Yeah, Charles Peckham, he's the one that drew up our original
Okay.
deal.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem to me it makes a lot of sense to sell the building and you keep using it for recycling when we can just divvy the money up between the 3 counties and we can use it as part of what we need.
You're just disposing of it at that point. From the standpoint of Cheyenne County, you should want it liquidated and dispersed sooner rather than later.
Right.
I don't like, we've been running scared for 2-3 years and looking for ways to do this. We've been robbing our equipment reserve, our e-waste reserve and stuff, and maybe using the money to operate one more year, I don't know.
These people
If
take the
that's a smart
plastics,
thing to do.
like,
Pardon?
will any of these places take the plastics? Like-
Yeah, if we
like-
bail it.
if
Well, we
bail it, so
appreciate
like,
everything you
a lot of
guys are
people that
doing.
are using it for
Huh?
grain
We appreciate
storage,
everything
if they
you're
bail it,
doing.
Or if they bail it, you can
And I-
get rid of it. There's a lot of people
Well, it's
that wanted
come
me to
time
check
to
on
do
that
something.
when I was running.
Okay,
We've been, you guys
maybe we
invested
can ask
too much
Roger. He'll know better on that.
Okay.
in our recycling program. My God, I mean, our county, what, 3,500, and maybe, do we even have 3,500 now? And you got 2 very successful recycling deals, nice buildings, nice equipment.
Brett has a question for you on the.
When I was talking to people back in July and such, there was some of the farmers that wanted to know if we could do anything with the plastics that they store their grains in or that they cover their grains in, like at the feedlots and stuff. And I told them I'd do some checking. Is there any way,
We can't take it.
do you have any idea what we could?
I would go back to the people that manufactured it.
Okay.
There's a company out of Arkansas that would take it, but a lot of farmers don't want to go to that process. They want somebody else to stockpile and everything, and then
Does Goodland takes it though? I think they said some of the.
That's Goodland?
Yeah, does Goodland?
I don't know.
I was just at a Sherman County Commissioner meeting, and that question was asked me, is that we knew of anybody that would take those. They're concerned about the amount of them that are.
I was going to
So
call.
they're definitely looking, trying to find a solution there too.
I'm going to call Goodland and see,
Yeah.
because I think they take it.
No, they don't.
They don't?
No,
Okay.
they said no. They had nowhere to.
Okay.
That was the commissioner was asking me, and I of all
Okay.
people.
See, another item too that we're gonna have to worry about right away is the chemical jugs that the farmers have, because we're not gonna have any place to take them. So that's another item we're gonna have to drop almost immediately, I'd guess.
Unless we'd go to work. I don't know if I got the time or energy to find other vendors for, like chemical jugs, or these coverings,
Plastic. Yeah.
or clothing. We've got a really good vendor for clothing,
Yeah.
except you have to have a full semi before it comes from California to pick it up. And that's baled clothing.
Wow.
Takes about 5 boxes to make one bale of clothing.
Wow.
Yeah, the thrift store's not gonna be happy about that one,
Yeah, I don't think anybody is.
a lot.
So what do you think, Jar? Do you think maybe we have another small meeting with some certain people that want to go in and check it out as to what we can do with some of this stuff? Or are you going to just take that on yourself to?
I don't mind. I mean, Roger's working with Sunoco. Dave's talked to a couple other counties. I have as well. I think we could probably come back with some kind of a recommendation based on just analyzing costs. Anybody else who'd be interested, obviously, we could keep in the loop with. I think we're kind of waiting to hear from Sunoco. They wanted to propose something, they didn't have anything specific, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
In fact, he was wanting to make some calls. There may be someplace closer to take this single stream than Hutchinson. He mentioned Dodge City.
So yeah, to answer your question, I don't mind continuing on as long as
Yeah.
get input from Dave and Roger, and then we can come back with specifics.
And I'm supposed to meet with the commissioners in Decatur County, I think next week or the week after. And then Alan wanted me to come over to Decatur County, but he wanted to do it after our meeting that we have at the end of February, which I may give him a call and say, I think maybe we ought to get together before then. Because like JR said, times is getting a little cramped here, and
Yeah, and
you have to do something or get off the pot.
and this is by July, and we can't just run up to July and then stop. We're gonna have to
Well, it's
quit.
gonna take some money to liquidate. I mean, what are we all gonna do? Go over there and start getting this equipment together? And we can't even sell a trailer we've had for 3 years. So,
Well,
that's it.
we just need to keep moving it forward, because like I said, July's gonna come up, there's no reason to extend that any further than we have to.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
But again, to reiterate your question, Roger, I can't help but we can't save money. And even if it costs you a little bit of money at first, I think you'll get that back once these things are liquidated. Now, we'll have to build a dock, or get a portable dock, but JR's talking about, just build one up there.
we'll find these answers.
Yeah, sure.
Keep track of your hours and we'll send you a thank you.
Well, these guys are on salary. I just got my salary check the other day.
The county has kicked in quite a little in years past, but you gotta also recognize 15 years ago, we only had like about 10 years of life at the landfill till we changed things up and the people really invested. You have to admire all the volunteering's been done, you know,
Yeah.
to recycle. So,
It's been an excellent project,
yeah,
and people really,
How many years do you have left now, do you think?
quite a few.
A lot.
Good.
You know, a point I wanted that I made to Roger earlier that I should to you guys too was that organization, when it started, it as a collective, it brought a lot of awareness to recycling. It organized 8 counties at its peak, is that right?
Yeah.
And the residual is, all of these counties, even though they're not part of it, they all have recycling programs that have continued on in some form. So the net effect of having it been there has been good throughout all that area. So,
Well, you proved it, Oberlin. They must have a lot bigger hole over there to fill.
He's always bragged on it, but I don't think he's got bragging rights anymore.
not by years, they don't.
They are, this on camera.
Yeah, it is.
They're not. Like I said, 30 years, this table here has been nothing but supportive to me, and I would say the opposite over there.
Okay, well, we'll just keep working on it, and we'll get back with our commissioners and anything I can do to help you with that.
Okay, sounds good.
Willie's a good board member.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
See ya.
Mr. Schultz, are you ready?
Close. Thanks for the time, everybody. Hand those out, please. What you're getting there is that front page is the December numbers, and however the census trend, that's a 12-month trend over here on that chart.
Okay.
And that pie chart, that's for the year. And I might point out that Medicaid, private pay, and Medicare, Medicaid, their reimbursement rate is $231 a day. Private pay is $233 a day, so they're really similar.
I'm sorry, how much was private pay, Eddie?
$233 a day.
Okay, okay.
And so you've had those, I've handed these out to you 2 or 3 months ago, so most of these things haven't changed. They're just an addition there on December numbers. And then the second page shows how radical our income and expenses can be. It shows the actuals through there, and on the good note, see, we only collected $54,000 from the county this year because of the money we were getting from COVID. And without the COVID money, instead of having $350,000 of that $6 million equivalent left at this point in time, and some cash in the bank, we'd had to ask for the rest of the $350,000, and we'd about broke even. So the COVID really helped. And as a matter of fact, there's a COVID check came Wednesday for $34,000 just out of the air, and there's another second round of the PPP funding available, but there's a ratio. It has to be 25% drop in income for any quarter. So they're comparing like second quarter of 2019 to the second quarter of 2020, and we don't meet that. So we will not be eligible for this second round of the PPP.
The COVID money, can that be used for payroll or anything like that? Or does
I
it
don't
have a
think
specific?
there's anything specific on that money that came Wednesday. Now the PPP was that original. These big amounts were, 75% of that had to go to payroll and expenses and operating expense,
Okay.
but so that did have to be sorted out. So, and here is budget proposal. There is one big, the fluctuations on this monthly stuff is scary. For instance, there's usually 1 to 2 month delay in collecting Medicare payment when you put a new resident in. It takes that long for them to okay all the paperwork. And so that's a problem. Right now we've got one that's 7 months old because the paperwork's hung up someplace. And so it's hard to keep the cash flow going. You know, we need flexibility on our cash flow.
But they do reimburse you for
They will
from
happen.
day
It
one.
will happen.
Okay.
It'll be retro at some point.
Okay.
But it doesn't help our cash flow month to month.
Yeah.
That's why we need flexibility in our budget. And there's a bigger delay. As we were first going in and filling, you know, there was a big delay. There was a lot of that cash reimbursement that wasn't available for quite a while. And, but then you get in the normal flow. Well, all of a sudden this isn't a normal flow this year because the residents have dropped, or, you know, our rates dropped low. So as those come back in, they're going to require this waiting period. So we're going to be dealing with more of that for a few months. And so we'll get it at some point, but we just need some cash reserved.
And do you have a waiting for people to come in, or can they come in right away?
They're working on that right now. They had to turn some away for a period of time, but now they're ready to accept again. So that's looking better. But like I say, there'll be a delay on income.
So your actual expenditures on the second page for 2020, or your actual income does not include any Spark or COVID or PPE.
No. Because see, that wasn't in the budget. But see, the total on that was about about 650,000 total COVID stuff.